My friends, I've been telling you that I have an interview to show you, and here it is. I hope you enjoy it. So, my addiction got started from taking one party way too far and basically never ending the party. It just wouldn't end. Basically what happened was after my cancer, after I had done my recovery and everything, my friends were really excited because we would always go camping during the summer. And this was the first time that me and my friends, we all got to get together for the first time since I was in the hospital with my cancer. So it was a big celebration, and so nice of them. Everybody bought me beer, and at the time I wasn't really that big of a drinker. I would drink casually, like when we went out on Friday or Saturday nights with our friends, but I never kept beer at my house or anything. So when I went, I think I brought like a 12 pack, but everybody else brought me a whole bunch of beer, so just for like a celebration. So I was there, I had probably 2 cases of beer for the 2.5 days that we were there, and I decided, you know what, I'm gonna party. I'm alive, I just survived cancer, I'm just gonna party. And I drank and I drank and I drank and I drank all through the night. I remember that night when everybody went to go to bed, me and some of the boys went out onto the lake and fished, and I drank the entire time, and we fished until sun rose, and then I continued binge drinking the entire trip. The entire trip was just a blur, you know? And it was the very first time that I had done a huge binge drink. So I think something flicked off in my brain, like a light switch flicked on, because right after I had my first experience with binge drinking, I just could not stop, and it escalated and it escalated, and eventually I lost everything to it. You know, I really didn't have that many problems growing up. I had a wonderful family. I had a mom and dad who loved me very much. They were in a band. They toured a lot during my childhood. So during that time I would stay with my grandmother, but I had a great childhood. I was never abused. I never had any reason to, use alcohol or drugs to escape from my situation. I had a great home life. My mom and dad loved me. One thing I can say though, something that we didn't really talk about too much, was my parents were addicts, My dad had his own thing and he got over it when he was young, like when he was like early 20s. But my mom, something that we never really talked about in the family was my mom was an alcoholic. And don't get me wrong, my mom wasn't like a raging alcoholic by any means, but she was somebody who at the end of the day liked to come home and drink herself to sleep. Basically, she'd come home, she'd throw on her favorite TV show, and she'd buy a box of wine, and she would just drink until she passed out. It was never a really negative thing on the family or anything, and nobody even acknowledged it while my mom was alive. Now that my mom has passed away, I can look back on it and be like, yeah, you know what, my mom was an alcoholic, but that doesn't take away anything from my parents being awesome. I had an awesome upbringing. I was bullied a lot in high school, in elementary school. I was bullied all the way until I got to high school, and that really sucked, but I don't think that has anything to do with my drinking at all. It really only took, I would say, 6 months for my drinking to become an absolute disaster, I went from somebody who never drank at home. I would go out with my friends and drink, but I went from somebody who would never drink at home to somebody who had a bar in my kitchen, and I would just get loaded all the time. I would say that it only took 6 months for the drinking to start ruining my life in every way, and I would say that it took 6 months total for me to 100% lose control of everything, of my finances, of my relationships, of my job. Everything started to go down the drain within 6 months of me starting to drink. Pretty quick if you think about it. Well, I started losing everything, and I did lose everything. The first thing that I lost was my job. So my job, I had a wonderful job. I'm still friends with the owner of the store, but I had a wonderful job, and I completely blew it, you guys. I blew it 100%. I had one of those jobs where you grow up in a small town, and when you're young, you look at a place and you're like, I really want to work here because it's like the coolest place ever, and this is where all the cool kids hang out. I got a job there, and I was doing great for a good 5 years, you know. It was a fun job, and I completely blew it. Within 6 months of me drinking, I had to go to rehab. So my boss let me go to rehab, no problem. Very nice of him. But I wasn't ready to quit at that point. So when I came back from rehab, I continued to drink. But the problem was, I was also drinking on a whole bunch of pills that they gave me while I was in the hospital. So I started having seizures, and I didn't care because I needed to keep drinking, I needed to keep taking these meds, and I had to take off a long time from work. And eventually work just got fed up with it and said, listen, are you coming back to work or not? And I said, I can't come back yet. And they said, okay, well, then we have to let you go, you know, so that sucked. Second thing I lost, which was huge for me, was my girlfriend. At the time, we had been dating for years, we were high school sweethearts. It absolutely devastated me to lose her. But at the same time, she was upstairs in my apartment while I was just ignoring everything, wasting away, sitting in a bar, drinking. You know, at that point in my life, the most important thing was intoxicating myself, and I couldn't care about everybody else. So I lost my job, I lost my girlfriend, and by losing my girlfriend, I also lost my friend group, because me and my girlfriend, our friend group was all of our high school friends. We were high school sweethearts. So when I lost her, I lost all of my friends. So now I'm sitting alone in my apartment just drinking. I have no job, I have no girlfriend, my friends are gone, and then I start losing my possessions, you know, because I was stubborn. I had moved out for the first time. I didn't want to have to crawl home to my parents, so I just started selling every single thing in my apartment until eventually I had nothing, and then eventually I had to move back in with my parents. It was awful. But not only that, with my addiction, that was just the beginning of it. After years and years and years of it, my parents were worried that I was going to die. My parents were worried that I was going to be in jail. My parents were worried about so many ridiculous things. So I lost the respect from my family. I lost the trust from my family. I started lying all the time to all of my friends, to my family members, to everybody. And I don't even know why I did it. But I did it, and I take ownership for it. But I lost everything, so nobody could put up with me. Even my best friend, who I'm so glad I have today in my life, he said, listen, until you get better, like, we're not friends, like, I'm not talking to you. And yeah, so I'm telling you, if you're listening out there, addiction will take everything from you. Everything that you care about, it'll take it, no problem. It doesn't care. Yeah, I mean, my addiction was incredibly expensive. It was, I would say, in the 10 years that I spent abusing alcohol, I would estimate that I spent maybe $150,000 to $175,000 on it. It's amazing to think about. How did I afford that? I didn't. I couldn't afford that, you know, not legally, not legitimately. So as I've said on this channel before, the first couple of years that I was an addict, I was a drug dealer. So I sold weed around my neighborhood, and that's how I got by. I made really good money doing it. I made enough to go on trips. I made enough to do a lot of things. But eventually I was robbed, and it spooked me out way too much, and I never went back to that. That being said, afterwards I had a good nest egg. I had maybe $15,000, but I lost it. I lost it all, because eventually, week by week, I would just spend and spend and spend and spend and spend. And I'd say within 2 years of my addiction being a full addiction, I'd lost everything. I had lost my house, I had lost my girlfriend, I had lost everything. I had to move back in with my parents. It was awful. But I still continued to drink. So how did I drink after that? Well, I got a lot of money from the government for being disabled because I was drinking way too much, and they would pay you for disability, which is crazy to think about, but I was on disability, and then I decided to go back to school. And one of the biggest reasons why I went back to school was because, one, I wanted to be like my sister and make her proud, but at the same time I knew that I could get a huge loan to go to school. And in Canada, what they'll do is they'll just give you the money and hope that you do schoolwork with it, you know. So I took thousands of dollars from that, spent it on alcohol, had to pay it back for years. And it was just awful. And then as I grew up and I grew older, I started meeting people who would just buy me alcohol whenever I wanted. I'd have people that I would go to the bar with, and they would just buy me alcohol, and I would basically just drain their whole life away. I'm so sorry for my friends who are watching this that I've done that to. I'm so sorry. I promise I'll try to make it up to you. But that being said, I mooched off my friends. I mooched off of anybody who would lend me it. Another thing that I would do, and it's a big reason why I'm not allowed in a lot of the bars in my town, is I would get comfortable with the bar. You know, I would let them get to know me, and I'd let them get comfortable enough to let me have a tab. And then I would pay off my tab maybe once or twice, let them get comfortable, and then I would rack up this huge tab, and I'd never go back to the restaurant, you know? We have about 30 restaurants in our town, so it was pretty easy to just rack up a huge tab at one, go to the next one, rack up a huge tab, until eventually I got basically banned from every restaurant in our town. It was embarrassing, you know? And yeah. There's also other things. I did stupid things on the internet. Now people with OnlyFans and things like that, they're all entrepreneurs. But when I was doing it, it was shameful and gross, and I'm not happy about what I did back then at all. But it made a lot of money, and it made me enough money to be able to continue my lifestyle, you know? I'm not proud of any of the things that I've done. I'm glad that I've learned from them, but addiction can bring you into some pretty crazy places, and it can make you do some pretty crazy things to get your drug of choice. That's a big question, but yeah, absolutely, both. I've talked about my essay before on this channel. I will link that at the end of this video, actually. But yeah, I have. I'm not going to get too much into that topic on this video. If you would like to, actually, yeah, you know what? I'll talk about it. Yeah, I was sexually assaulted by somebody who took me to their apartment when I was under the impression that we were just going to have a drink. They took me to the apartment, drugged me. 3 people had their way with me, left me in the lobby, and that's where I woke up. So yes, I have been essayed, and when it comes to being beaten up, absolutely I've been beaten up. I've been beaten up and robbed. One of the worst things, and one of the reasons why I went to rehab for the very first time, was because I had an incident where I was drinking at a bar that was literally across the street from where I lived, and I was so drunk that I couldn't walk home, and I passed out on the sidewalk outside of the bar. And later on, when the bar was letting out, people stepped on me, kicked me, somebody urinated on me, and they robbed me. So when I woke up being all beaten up and stuff like that, I had realized what had happened, and I think basically the next day I started the process to get into rehab. But yeah, even in rehab, the first time I went to rehab, I had freshly gotten this tattoo, this German tattoo. I had a shaved head, and within the first 3 or 4 days, I was jumped in the hallway because people thought I was a Nazi. You know, this was at a time where social justice warriors were just beginning. Everybody was calling everybody horrible things, and they saw me with my bald head and they thought that I was a skinhead. So yeah, they beat me up big time. I can't possibly imagine the hell that I put my family through. My whole family was incredibly worried about me. The thing is, in my family, we already have a member of the family who is a drug addict, but is in no way wants to get better. They just want to be a drug addict. And they're older than I am. So my whole family grew up with this drug addict in the family. And then as I got older, my family started seeing that I was turning into that person. So I think that must have scared the hell out of them, because that person is a absolutely horrible person. That being said, of course it affected my family. They must have worried about me day and night because I drank all the time. There wasn't a time really when I was awake that I wasn't sober. I mean, it was pretty crazy. I was always drunk. So they had to worry about me falling down the stairs. They had to worry about me passing out in the street. They had to worry about me getting robbed. They had to worry about so many things. One thing that I'm kind of happy about is I became suicidal, but I only became suicidal after my mom had passed away. So I'm kind of happy that my mom never had to go through watching her son be suicidal, but my dad did. My dad had to watch it, and I had 5 attempts, and I'm talking about 5 times where I was hospitalized and told I wasn't allowed to leave until I'm medically evaluated. You know, I had these 5 attempts after my mom died, and that must have scared the hell out of my dad. And I know for a fact that he felt like he was a failure as a dad. And if you're watching this, Dad, I can't tell you how wrong you are, because you're the best fucking dad in the world. Excuse my language. Either way, guys, I put my family through hell. Please don't put your family through hell, because they care about you so much. They're gonna be there no matter what, you know? So be good to them. Be good to them. Don't let them worry about you. I can't imagine having a son myself and watching him go through what I went through, you know? Be good to your family members. Remember, they love you very much. So the big turning point for me to get sober was I was ready to finally finish my suicide attempt, essentially. I've talked about it on this channel before. I had several attempts with pills and alcohol, and it never worked. And I concocted this crazy idea, and it's nothing but crazy. I concocted this crazy idea that I was going to join the armed forces, get a gun, and then shoot myself. Because in Canada, it's incredibly hard to get firearms, stuff like that. So that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to join the forces, get a gun, and shoot myself. And I went through with this to the point where I did my applications. I went into the offices and I did my testing. I did my interviews and stuff. I got all the way to the final interview, to the point where they say, okay, you're on board, let's get you out to camp, you know? I got so close to it, and when I realized how close I was to doing something absolutely horrible, I immediately realized then and there, I need to get help right now, because I knew that what I was going to do was going to be horrible. And I went through all of the steps to do it, and it scared me. It really, really scared me, because, yeah, I knew what I was going to do, and I was so scared of doing it that I think that day I called my grandmother and I said, listen, if you're still willing to send me to rehab, I will go right away. And she said, oh, Kyle, I am so glad to hear that, you know. So I talked to her, we set everything up. I started going to a walk-in clinic that helped me until I got to rehab. And today I'm proud to say I'm like 451 days sober, I think. 451? Let's see. I have this great app on my phone called Sober Buddy. I totally recommend you guys get it, but it will tell you how long you've been sober. So I've been sober for 462 days. And I'm feeling great about it. I'm feeling great. I don't feel the need to drink. I don't feel any urges to drink. I'm a completely new person now. And it's wonderful. It's wonderful to have my life back. It's wonderful to be myself again. You know, it's just a great, great feeling. There's a few wonderful things about being sober, but my favorite thing about being sober, hands down, is not having my family worry about me 24/7. You know, when I was a drinker, I was out of control. I was absolutely out of control. I would drink nonstop. I'd get in trouble all the time. Luckily, I never got into any legal trouble, but I would get myself into trouble, if that makes any sense. I'd get hurt, I'd get injured, I'd fall down, I'd pass out, I'd trip down the stairs, I'd do crazy things, you know? So the biggest thing that I'm happy about being sober is not having my family have to worry about me all the time. Not having my grandmother have to pray 4 or 5 times a day that I'm going to be okay, you know? It's a wonderful feeling. It's a great feeling because you go from a place where everybody's so scared that you're going to like die tomorrow to a place where everybody is so excited about your potential in life. It's so wonderful. Another great thing about being sober for me is that I'm accountable. I finally can be accountable, and I can finally say something to somebody and remember it. First of all, I can at least remember the things that I say to people, but I can stick to my word. If I tell somebody that I'm going to do something, then I can do it. You know, it's wonderful to be accountable. I was looking at my taxes actually, and I made an extra $6,000 this year. And that wasn't from a raise, that wasn't from anything like that. That was just from going to work more, not calling in sick every day, showing up on time every day, you know? That is what I strive to do, and now that I'm sober, I can accomplish those things. Another thing, the third best thing about being sober is you have so much time to do wonderful things like volunteer or create content or play video games or hang out with your dogs. Literally anything. When you realize that when you're in active addiction, how much time you actually spend using that drug or depending on that drug, it takes up your entire day. So now that you're off of it, now that you're sober, you can have hobbies. You can have all of these little things that normal people have that you never thought you'd be able to. I never thought that I'd be able to have a YouTube channel, volunteer, go to work, play video games, and hang out with my friends. I never thought that I'd be able to do that, but I can do that, and I have extra time, you know? So those are my favorite things about being sober, 100%. So my favorite sober memory, it kind of stings because it didn't end up working out, I don't think. But this is my favorite thing that I ever experienced when I was sober, and it might have been one of the most beautiful moments of my entire life. So, ever since I was a drinker, I had a hard time with relationships because obviously it's very hard to have an addiction and have a relationship at the same time. But I've always been somebody who loves so much, and I need a relationship, you know? I don't like being single. So I was seeing this girl, and I was finally able to do nice things, and I was finally able to be myself and everything like that. And she had kids, and one thing that was wonderful about that is I love kids, and I was comfortable being around the kids because I wasn't intoxicated. You know, I could have never done that years ago because no mother, no good mother, would allow me to hang around their kids when I was drinking the way that I was. I could have fallen on them. I could have done so many horrible things, you know. But this proved to me that I was at a point where not only was I worth a relationship, like not only could somebody look at me and be like, hey, I want to be in a relationship with you. I haven't felt that in years and years. So when somebody said that to me and they had kids, it really meant the world to me because I felt like, yeah, I'm sober, like I can handle this. And there was this one night where we were together and we were lying in bed and the kids were put in bed and we were just lying there and we were listening to the baby monitor. And there was a little nursery rhyme playing in the kids' room, and it was coming over the baby monitor. And I remember just lying in bed, looking up at the ceiling, and thanking God for how wonderful of an experience that was, because it was so special to me that somebody would open up enough to trust me, to bring me into their house and to, you know, spend a night and everything like that. And when I was lying in that bed and I was just looking at the ceiling and listening to the baby monitor, I felt like I had evolved. I felt like, yes, I am this person now. I felt like a completely different person. When that happened, when that exact moment happened, something happened in my heart where I just knew that I'm going to be okay and I'm capable of a relationship, or I'm capable of really anything that life throws at me, because now that I'm sober, I can handle it in a great way and I can give it my best, you know. So that's my favorite sober memory. That's my favorite thing that I've experienced since I've been sober. I'm sure many more wonderful things are going to happen to me, and I encourage you guys, stick with it, because wonderful, wonderful, wonderful things happen to you when you get sober. They might not always work out, but it's better that something happens and it doesn't work out than it never happening at all. You know, you grow from it. So for me, right now, I am 100% focused on my volunteering and helping the community and doing my YouTube. I think that what I'm doing is really helpful to a lot of people, and I'm going to continue doing that. But one thing that I'm really excited about is now I have the opportunity to travel in life. You know, I'm going on a huge month-long backpacking trip to Japan in 2 months, you know. So my future looks bright. I hope to get married one day. I hope to have kids one day. But I'm doing great at my job right now. I'm working on a promotion. And yeah, I've been blessed with the ability to be able to travel. So over the next 5 years, I plan on traveling a lot. After Japan, my next big trip is probably going to be Africa. And then Africa, I'll probably do maybe India. There's a lot of really cool places that I'd love to see in this world. So I'm going to do that and hopefully find a relationship and hopefully have kids, and that's about it, really. I don't need a lot of things in my life to be happy, you know? I don't need to be a millionaire. I don't need to have 100,000 subscribers. I don't need these things. What I need is, I need an outlet for my volunteering. I need to be able to help people. I need to be able to reach out to the addiction community, the people that are in need, and help them, you know? That's my biggest priority. But other than that, I just want to live my life, and now that I'm sober, I'm able to do that. And whatever road approaches me, or whatever fork in the road I get to, I can confidently take either one, because I know that I can count on myself, and I know that I don't need any liquid courage anymore. I have my own courage, you know? That's what's in the future for me. A great life regardless of how much money I make, regardless of how many cars I have, I know that as long as I stay sober and I stay away from my drug of choice, I know I'm going to have a I would say to any kid watching this or any young person watching this is be careful with your consumption. You know, I know that you're going to drink. I know that everybody is young and everybody likes to go out and party and have a good time. So, I'm not going to say don't do that. But what I am going to say and what I'm going to implore you is if you ever feel like your drug of choice, you're starting to get addicted to it or you're starting to have a problem with it, speak up about it. Don't feel ashamed about it. Don't feel like it's a very bad thing to get help with a problem that you're needing. I knew that I had a problem with drinking for way too long before I actually got help for it. And I think that if I got help when I recognized that I had a problem, I think that my life would have turned out a lot better. So if you're young out there and you find yourself using drugs or alcohol, and you find yourself getting a dependence on it, like you notice yourself saying, oh shoot, I think I might have a problem with this, talk up about it, you know? I'm not gonna say never do drugs because you're young, you're gonna do what you do. But I implore you that if you ever feel like you're starting to get dependent on it or you can't go a normal day without it, seek help, because the sooner that you get help with it, the better your life is going to be. As I've said before on this channel, because of my drug abuse, I don't remember the last 10 years of my life. I don't remember my 20s, and I don't want that to happen to any of you guys. If you guys can catch this when you're young, good, don't do it. But in the future, just be safe. If you are going to drink, be with good people. Drink with safe people. Try your best to drink within moderation. Don't drink things from strangers, you know. Try your best to just do something safely. You know, that's what I would say to young people. Be safe and recognize when you're having a problem. Get help for it. There's nothing shameful about it. If I could talk to my future self, I would just say, keep it up, buddy. You're doing great. Hopefully you're doing great. And listen, man, if you've relapsed, don't worry about it. Just get back up on the horse. Keep doing what you're doing. Remember, what you're doing is good. And you gotta keep doing it, buddy. You gotta keep doing it. So, if you've fallen down, if you've fallen off the horse, get right back up. Because, buddy, you can do it 100%. Hey guys, I just want to say thank you so much for watching my film. I really appreciate your support and your kind words all the time. Guys, this is going to be an ongoing series. The very first episode is very crude. Excuse me, I'm still trying to work on editing. But we are going to be continuing this. I'm going to be having more guests from my community. I'm going to be doing Zoom calls with people. I hope you enjoy it. I want to let you know that there is a good part of being an addict. And the good part about being an addict is when you're done with your drug. Remember, you'll never not be a drug addict after you quit your drug. But the things that you can do after you've quit are just incredible, and the amount of motivation that you can get within you once you've quit these things is amazing. Imagine climbing to the tallest mountain in the entire world. It's the hardest trek you could ever imagine, and after years of traveling up this mountain, you finally get to the top. You're done with the mountain, and now you're at the top staring at everything. It's an amazing feeling to be sober, guys, and I hope that my videos can encourage somebody out there. Please consider subscribing if you liked what I'm doing here. There will be more, and I really appreciate everything. Guys, wherever you are in the whole wide world, please be safe, please be sober, and if you're not going to be sober, that's totally fine, guys. Just be safe about it. Have a safe ride home. Don't drink and drive. Remember, your parents love you, and every one of your friends wants you to wake up tomorrow. Alright, guys? Bye. Bye. Bonsoir.